So this article, I found it really truth-telling, and this article basically is telling about what has actually happened to a lot of people who are unable to find affordable homes. And so it pretty much puts the truth out there that redlining hasn't stopped. Redlining has just been renamed. And a lot of the racial overtones, a lot of the things that were put in the housing market, in maps, and in contracts, they took a lot of those things out and replaced it with other issues that are very much the same thing. It's just they have a new way of using verbiage to make it sound as if it isn't a race issue when it really is. And so it says how the U.S. made affordable homes illegal. So the rules that keep American housing expensive. And so I'm going to read this. This is by Jerusalem Demsas and Ranjani, and I can't say the last name, but this is out of the VOX box. And so there is a great video that is attached to it that goes into detail about the rules that make houses so expensive. And so over the past year, the housing prices has rose precipitously, shattering the dreams of many would-be homeowners and highlighting the underlying inequalities in the housing market. Low interest rates and millennials' entry into the market spiked demand across the nation, leading housing prices to increase more than 20% in some cities. But while this year was unique in many ways, the demand is a big part of the story. And so what's often ignored is the biggest reason is not increasingly difficult for Americans to find affordable housing. We don't have enough houses. According to one estimate, we are now facing a shortage of nearly 4 million homes in the U.S. And the primary reason for that shortage is exclusionary zoning. So listen to that. Exclusionary, not inclusion, exclude. It's exactly what it says, exclusionary zoning. Zoning laws are the rules and regulations that decide what types of homes can be built where. And so while this can be innocuous, exclusionary zoning is anything but. And so these rules have a dark history in the U.S. as a tool of racial and economic segregation, used explicitly to keep certain races, religions, nationalities out of certain neighborhoods. And I'm going to read that again so you know that redlining has not disappeared. It is just the verbiage has been changed. That's all it is. So these rules have a dark history in the U.S. as a tool of racial and economic segregation used explicitly to keep certain races, religion, and nationalities out of certain neighborhoods. And while the explicit racism has been wiped from the legal text, the effect of many of these rules remains the same: to keep affordable housing and the people who need it away from the wealthiest Americans. So in the majority of the country, particularly in cities with good jobs, it's illegal to build more affordable types of housing. And that's created a widespread affordability crisis. And so there is a video that is attached to that affordability issue. So will you support, basically, it says, will you support the journalism of Vox? So it's basically this was a short article. It just goes in supporting the newspaper or the paper. So normally I don't play the video under a video because they have certain types of, but if you look at this video, it goes into detail about the rules that make houses so expensive. And it goes into the history behind it and who meets at these meetings, that they have meetings. And I feel from what I saw in this video, the covenants have not really left. It's just a new group of people, but largely white and wealthy. And this is the group that seems to be driving um, the unaffordable situation in terms of the housing market. And that's one problem, because they can't build in these areas because of these rules. And so because they took the verbiage, the old time verbiage, out of these rules, you can't say that, oh, it's a race issue, when we know that's what it is. And so basically, it says the rules have a dark history in the US. It's a tool of racial and economic segregation. So it's not only just the race alone, it's also economics. And so if you don't make enough money, you can't even live next to certain people. So you're excluded from those areas. And we know that what people have termed it as is being priced out of neighborhoods. And so it's sad, but I don't know that this video really lasts that long. I don't really know how long the video actually lasts, but I know that if you come into this article, and the name of the article is How the U.S. Made Affordable Homes Illegal, and you actually look at this video, you get to see a full in-depth explanation on what this is about. And it's pretty truth-telling, and it basically will show you in this video a great example of how there's this unmatched, it doesn't match up with the millennials, the demand and the supply in terms of housing. And then two, I also have to add in here that here's another issue that I had also saw that was pretty big, was millennials that were selling their homes. And well, they were selling their homes because the reason why is because they realized it was too expensive. The upkeep. And so I was looking at that, and even here in South LA, okay, so even here in South LA, I'm seeing a lot of, and you see these articles, millennials don't buy homes because they're too expensive. The housing market is screwing over millennials again. America's running out of houses amid historic housing shortage and record high selling. Millennials buying their first home paying 39% more. New construction homes can be expensive. There's all kinds of things going on. And 63% of millennial home buyers have regrets. Here's why. It says 67% of the homes available in 2018 located at metro cities or areas tracked by Redfin were priced affordably for millennials, and down from 71% of homes in 2017 in LA. And then they just go through the figures. But I saw some things that were saying, yeah, it wasn't because it was too expensive to build, but it was mainly, they were saying more than half, or half, I don't know if it's millennials. It could be people in general. Um, okay. This is the article that I was looking for. So it says nearly half of the Americans are selling their homes, don't plan to buy another one. And here's why they're doing this. Um, and this is what I was seeing. This is by Sean M. Carter, and he put out something that really made a lot of sense. I thought it made a lot of sense. What I was reading, it makes a lot of sense. So the housing market is a red hot, and showing few signs of slowing down. And so it goes on to say that home prices were at a median of 386 um, 386,888 or 88 386,888. Okay. In June, according to Redfin, so up by 24% since last June, and the demand is really high. And so the average house lasted just about 14 days on the market, a whopping 25 fewer than last year. Okay. And so while that seems like welcoming news to sellers looking to cash in, 45% of the people told Rent.com that even after the home sales, they don't plan to buy another house right away. And so researchers polled 2,800 homeowners in June to see how the crisis has changed their plans. So here's why people are foregoing purchase of another house and what they're doing instead. So would-be buyers are scared off by all-time high prices. So that's what's happening now in the housing market. Hard financial times got worse for many Americans juggling expenses during the pandemic. So even with the profits from a sale in hand, buying another home as prices are soaring is just financially out of the question for many respondents. So about 27% of the recent sellers who aren't rebuying told Rent.com their top reason for not doing so was the price of the homes. Another was 5% that they aren't interested in getting into a bidding war. And that tracks with the new data, Open Door, which surveyed 800 Americans looking to buy or sell their home in the next year. So nearly 1 in 3 sellers, 32%, had findings of their next home. So buy was a major concern. So that almost was about as who we're worried about getting the right price for their current home, 36%. So it is not surprising sellers at opting to rent due to the all-time housing prices. And so this was a Washington, D.C. real estate investor, Andy Kolchich. And so the prospect of real estate regrets. A lot of buyers have regrets about a home they chose, or about home ownership, full stop. So a recent bank rate, it says, poll found that nearly 2/3 of 64% millennials aged 25 to 40 had regrets about a home purchase. And so in that survey, the top physical home regret was the size. 30% millennials were displeased about their home square footage, thinking it was too big or too small. And the top financial regret was the upkeep of it. Over 20% of the buyers said that the cost of repairs was more than they had budgeted for. And so that coheres with the Rent.com data, which shows that many sellers are seeing the current market as a chance to get out of home ownership while turning a profit. So nearly a quarter of the recent sellers, 24%, say they're not buying another property because they are no longer interested in being homeowners. So another 16% are looking to downsize to do something smaller. So some former homeowners are moving in with someone else because they lost their home or they're about to lose their home. It's too expensive. The other issue that is not mentioned here is climate change. There's a lot of homes that are in areas that are like disaster prone because of climate change. There's flooding and there's fires going on. And so those are other big reasons outside of this. And so that's going to be an issue in the future, I'm sure, in the near future, very soon, that insurance rates are probably going to go up on homes because of the fact of the climate change. And what I've heard some homeowners say is that insurance doesn't cover all of the damage. Some people are displaced, like the Dixie Fire and some of the other fires that are going on that are burning out of control. All they can do when it gets that bad is contain the fire. They can't actually put it out. They have to let the fire take its course and burn out on its own. And so there's been talks of climate change. There's been talks of flooding, sea level rise. There's been talks of shortages of water in areas, and then there's a lot of areas that have been dealing with droughts or will be dealing with droughts if they aren't already, and heat waves. So that kind of drives, and then gusts of winds that drives these fires. And so if you live in areas where those things can happen, and you think you might want to reconsider where you're going to live and locate. And it almost seems like with the climate change, there's really no escaping that. I don't care where you move. If it's in the mountains, then you got to deal with fires, maybe, like mudslides. And then if you're living in the coastal areas, then there's the flooding. And then some areas that just are prone to flooding, even if it isn't in a coastal area, you're just prone to flooding because of high rain fall. So it just seems like it's probably not a good investment. So as people live in close quarters during the pandemic lockdowns, which this is unrelated to some commercial, it says it made a big sudden leap to their commit to their partner after getting to know each other. And so that's the other thing. Others camped with family or decided to get roommates because that's more economically feasible, because a lot of people lost jobs because of the pandemic, or their hours are shorter because maybe there's changes of the jobs where they have currently. So temporary housing for an indefinite period of time can be really tough, but it is a good option for the cost savings, says Kolji, who owns the House Guys, it's called. So if your co-living situation isn't permanent, set a time frame for how long you'll be out of the housing game, he suggests. So this can create motivation so that you aren't just waiting around for the economy and real estate market to return to normal. So others are switching cities and want to check things out first. So millions of Americans have moved last year and more are relocating now. So the lure of lower cost of living or a new job or where they can work remotely has compelled a lot of people to uproot themselves as well. So some people want to work in a safer environment because of the spread of this disease. So that could be also, if it has anything to do with the virus, that also is putting an imprint on the housing market as well. So many of these movers are taking a practical approach by renting until they get to know their city a little better. And of recent sellers, 16% say that they plan to do just before they buy the same thing before they buy again. So if you're moving somewhere new, experts say it's smart to rent in different neighborhoods before settling in one. So it could give you or your budget a break from the market craziness as well. So in an unfamiliar city, I recommend renting before buying, realtor says Jake A. Lee, recently, who told Grow. And he basically said, while it may be tempting to buy first, getting a better idea of the market and before making such of a major investment, because you're taking a loan on a loan and that's up to you to pay that back. And so investment can be a great idea, but even if you just find out about the neighborhood you prefer, having 12 months or so insight can be very helpful, because you want to know who lives in the neighborhood, what kind of neighborhood is it, is it the price of things fluctuate, is it in an area that's prone to natural, a lot unexpected, with it seems like it's unexpected, but it's frequent natural disasters or Actually, it's unnatural. It's got climate change, but now we have to live with it, so it's become something that's more frequent. With the high rainfalls, the flooding, maybe fires, an area that's really dry. Maybe it has, it has tornadoes, hurricanes. So as you get to know your new area, keep an eye on the national and local real estate market. It adds collagy. So watch how it's trending and find people in the real estate market where you're looking to buy who know about the area that you're moving to, and these experts can guide you when to take the move towards buying a house again, if it's even safe to do that. That's the other thing. Are you in an area? Too, people are probably, I would bet now, when they say the numbers are up in certain areas with the virus, people are going to think about, should we even live over in a place that has high numbers of virus cases? Is it safe? Some people might not want to live in areas like that. They might want to steer clear of that. That's what happened downtown LA. A lot of people abandoned their apartments. They left, or they went to maybe a vacation house, stayed there until they thought the virus was going to go away, because there was so much death, because people were meeting each other in elevators, they're in close quarters, they're in high rises, they got to bump into each other, they're walking their dogs up and down downtown LA. So people left when that virus early 2020 in March, they left because they didn't want to get infected. But now we're looking at this thing all over again. And so that has an impact even down there. And I feel like our wealthy people live in downtown LA because it's changed so much. It's near the Staples Center. It's like becoming a wealthy enclave. But anyway, having said that, I'm going to let this go. But yeah, it looks like this virus and among other things are going to change the market probably indefinitely.